Welcome back to Afternoon Live. If you're a man looking to create stronger and happier relationships, our next guest says the first step is often the hardest, but the most important. Here to share more, we welcome the author of Big Boys Do Cry, professional counselor Ryan Kopyar. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, great to be with you, Hannah.
Big Boys Do Cry. I love that title. Tell me about the process of putting the book together. It was pretty quick, right?
Yes, yeah. So it took me about 3 months. It was in my heart. It was in my soul. And so I said, you know, it's time to just break out this stigma that men have to keep everything inside. We don't, and life gets better when we're vulnerable and we cry.
Tell me about this concept of radical vulnerability. What does that mean?
Yes. So, you know, as men, we are often grown up to feel like we've got to be this big, strong, tough, stoic guy, and to that show our emotions would be a sign of weakness. And radical vulnerability and being emotionally open is to just say, you know what? I'm not perfect, and I make some mistakes, and I'm learning along the way, and to ask for some grace and compassion in that process.
That is a really hard place to get to when you've got many years, right?
Yes.
And lots of societal norms pushing you one direction. You've got to kind of find a way out of that. How do you take that first step?
Yeah. You know, it's funny, I say, for men growing up as little boys, you probably never had your grandfather, your father say, "Oh my gosh, Ryan, I had such a great cry, and let me tell you all about it."
Right.
We weren't taught that. And so I think that whether it's reading a book or a counselor or a friend where we can really get into our heart and be open and vulnerable and have a conversation, we can realize, hey, this is a great way to build connection.
Right. So actually letting yourself go, having that good cry. I love a good cry, by the way.
Yes.
Really releases a lot.
Yeah.
That can actually foster better connections and family and loved ones around you.
Absolutely. So vulnerability creates safety. Through safety, we have communication. Through communication, we have connection. And through connection, we have love.
Okay. It all step by step, but you got to get there, right? So
That's
how do
right.
you kind of break through to somebody who's just really, really stuck and has a hard time even, I guess, imagining opening up and having a cry or any moment of vulnerability?
So what I like to say to men is, you know, hey, look at, I'm a big boy, and right, the alpha male persona, and yes, I do cry.
Sure.
And that when I gave myself permission to cry, life got so much better for me. So if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too. And in the book, I'm vulnerable, right? And say, hey, here's a little bit about what my journey is like, and if I can do it, hopefully I can inspire other men to do it as well.
Yeah, so is that what led you to the book in the first place, to open that door and kind of show a path forward to other people?
Yes, yeah. I said, for almost 30 years, I didn't cry, and I kept a lot of pain inside. You know, a lot of times men think, well, if I just keep the pain inside, that's what makes me tough. Keeping the pain inside isn't what makes you tough. It's what makes life tough. And so when we can let that pain out and let that emotion out, there's not this heavy weight on us. And when there's not that heavy weight, we can create better connection with those we love.
Yeah, because it makes sense to your point of letting things out and having a cry can foster those deeper relationships.
Yes.
When you keep it in, that wall goes up and you don't allow the people who love you and probably want to get through. You're not even giving them the opportunity to get there.
That's right, yeah. Take off the mask, man. Take off the mask and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
The women in your life, your kids, your family, they're waiting for it. They want it. You don't have to be tough and strong all the time.
What about sports? We do see some glimpses of men, especially professional athletes, showing maybe a tear or two after losing a championship game. Is that a glimmer of hope or somewhere where it's sort of societally acceptable for men to cry?
Yes. So to the Ducks fans out there, I don't want to bring up any bad memories, okay? But there's a shot of Bo Nix crying on the sidelines after the loss to Washington. Sorry.
I know. Still hurts.
Yes. And so there's some interesting research coming out of Penn State where we see that men are starting to break the stigma in sports.
Okay.
But now we need to break it out in the feminine and in these other type of environments, right, that's outside of sports. Because although our partner may come with us to a football game or a sports game, that's a small portion of life, right? So we need to break out the stigma in all aspects of life.
That is nice, so that's kind of a first step that a lot of people are going, okay, I see this, I can understand that and connect with it and maybe take a piece of it with them. Tell me about emotional flexibility. What does that mean?
Yeah, being willing to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and I'm still learning on the process.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. It's okay to say you're sorry. It's okay to say that you made a mistake. That's the first part to reestablishing safety and connection.
It's tough, but we can do it.
That's right.
Do you have advice for folks raising little boys now who want them to be able to access that vulnerability as they grow and become young men.
Yes. Oh, that's so important. That's so important. Yes. You know, getting down at their level, right? When maybe you had a bad day, or you could tell that, you know, your child had a bad day, to get down at their level and say, hey, you know, buddy, I had a really tough day today. How are you doing? Where are you at?
Yeah.
Right? And so when they see us vulnerable and admit it, it gives them permission to feel like, oh, okay, I can tell mom or dad I had a tough day too.
Yeah, and kind of seeing that difference and hopefully finding some equality with little girls and little boys, that we speak to them the same way about their emotions, that it's okay for everybody to open up to.
That's right.
Because sometimes we find ourselves not knowing sometimes, but projecting more of those gender norms, that we can help break those down too.
Sure, sure. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's tough. Thank you so much.
Yes.
This was great. The book again is Big Boys Do Cry. We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. And we'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.